This is the Marchant HS8. It was built in the 1920s, although the exact date is up in the air. 1922 to 1927 seems to be a fair window. It or one of its variants were built as late as 1936. Its ingenious adaptive segment mechanism was designed by Carl Frieden. Frieden's design was accurate, fast, and robust. It had fewer moving parts than a pinwheel. Here's the patent profile showing 3 moving parts per input. Mine has 8 inputs. Baldwin's patent wasn't successful, but it had 12 moving parts to accomplish the same task. So did Oldner's pinwheel. That was the standard for the mechanism. The accumulator numbers on this machine do not line up with the input register. Some machines will have a little tab here with arrows indicating which number lines up with which column in the accumulator. On this machine, you have to be sure to line up the check register with the input register, or with the accumulator, rather. I'll run through some basic arithmetic with it. In the home position, the carriage is shifted all the way to the right. This arrow indicates which number it's on. You can shift it with this lever, one at a time. Or you can also press this button and shift it all the way. In its default setting, it's a multiplication machine. So if you want to multiply 25 by 25, you hit 25. And shift the carriage once. And 25 by 25 is 625. If you press the wrong digit, you can clear it with this button or clear all of them. If you want to go back to adding, you can depress this button, which looks a lot nicer than the rest because it came from a different machine. So by depressing that, now when I add a number, after I've added once, it'll pop up, ready for another number. And of course you can subtract. If I want to subtract 681, and just turn it the other way. And of course the bell rings. Clearing the accumulator and the counter are both handled by the same lever in a way that I don't really love. You spin it clockwise to clear the counter and counterclockwise to spin the accumulator. I don't love the clearing handle because it necessitates having some gearing in here and this cover, which sticks up from the side. But if you take off that cover, you can see the gearing that allows it to work. So with the top case off, we can see Frieden's design. These are Frieden's equivalent of pins. They all move in unison. Right now 0 is input, so nothing happens. If I were to input 9, you'll see that they'll all pop up at the same time in order to allow the input of 9 to move the accumulator 9 times. And there they've come out. Here they go. This piece right here is a carry. So if I put 5 on the next one, and then 1 in the hundreds place, you'll see as I turn it, the ones will pop up first to allow it to add 9. Then the tens will pop up next to allow it to add 5. And finally the 1 or the hundreds will add only 1. There's the 9. Here comes the 5. Finally the 1. It was a really ingenious and fast design. Here's the back of his mechanism. As I input 9, you'll see that a lever will turn the mechanism, which then translates into his segment, adding 9 to the accumulator. There's 9, and here's 1. I'll add 5 to the next one. You can see the pulleys in there, the levers. There's 9, and there's 1. And of course they're angled because the input register is wider than the accumulator. Clearly mine is not the most polished example of the group, but a well-preserved Marchant is stunning. So let's compare the Marchant to this Monroe. It has a similar sort of design, a full keyboard with the accumulator and counter on top. It clears the similar way with a dual functioning handle. You can add or press the repeat and multiply. You can clear individual columns or clear the whole thing. In many regards, it's much the same machine. My 4 button is stuck, but I'm sure they didn't come off the line like that. And yet, it's just not as unattractive of a machine. This was built in the same era. Art Deco was at its peak when this came off the line. And yet Monroe doesn't seem to get the memo. And when you compare the two side by side, the Marchant just dwarfs the Monroe. And it just looks so much better. Marchant even got the logo right. So that's the Marchant HS8, a great machine. If you were to start your collection with one of these, it would totally make sense to me.